time until my food order comes in that I just placed. We talked about Zeus yesterday. Today we're going to talk about Poseidon. Poseidon is a Greek god. And of course, in Greek mythology, he's the god of the sea. Um, hold on a second here. Um, but he's the god of the sea, the storms, the earthquakes, and the horses. Um, um, Crap. Okay, hold on. Um, my order is actually telling me that it should be here in about 10 minutes. So let me talk about this, and then you're going to see me walk off screen for about several minutes to put my stuff away, and then I'll be back. Um, Poseidon is which is ancient Greek, is one of the 12 Olympians that resides on Mount Olympus in ancient Greek religion and mythology, and he's the god of the sea, the storms, the earthquakes, and horses. And he was a protector of seafarers and the guardian of many Hellenic cities and colonies. In the pre-Olympic Bronze Age Greece, Poseidon was venerated as a chief deity at Pylos in Thebes with the cult title Earth Shaker. Um, in the midst of isolated Arcadia, he is related to Demeter and Persephone and was venerated as a horse and as god of the waters. Um, Poseidon maintained both associations among most Greeks, but he was regarded as the tamer and father of horses, who, with the strike of his trident, created springs, and the terms for horses and springs are related in the Greek language. His equivalent in Rome is Neptune. Um, now Homer now Homer and Hesiod suggest that Poseidon became lord of the sea when following the overthrow of his father Kronos. The world was divided by a lot among Kronos' three sons. Zeus inherited the sky, Hades inherited the underworld, and Poseidon inherited the sea. Now, with the earth and Mount Olympus belonging to all three of them, even though Hades um, was never really what they call welcomed on Mount Olympus. Um, Now, in Homer's Iliad, Poseidon supports the Greeks against the Trojans during the Trojan War. Now, in the Odyssey, um, during the sea voyage from the Troy back home to Ithaca, the Greek hero Odysseus provokes Poseidon's fury by blinding his son, the Cyclops Polyphemus, resulting in Poseidon punishing him with storms, causing the complete loss of his ship and his companions, and delaying his return by 10 years. Now, Zombie is here. Welcome. Um, don't worry. Don't mind me. I love my Greek mythology. I've been a big fan of Greek mythology ever since I saw the movie Troy and and all that stuff. Um, Now Poseidon is famous for his contest with other deities for winning the patronage of the city. According to legend, Athena became the patron goddess of the city of Athens. Hello, Toxic Pen. Welcome. Now, basically, Poseidon and Athena did not like each other for a couple of reasons. They both wanted to be patron gods of a certain city, and the city chose Athena. Hello, Chrissy Thawley. Um, Welcome. So according, it is. I agree, Turbocharge. Greek mythology is one of my fascinating things. Um, but Athena and Poseidon did not like each other for the simple fact that they both wanted to be patron gods of a certain city, and the city chose Athena over Poseidon. So, in retaliation, Poseidon raped one of her maids. Um, and according to that, that's where I think Medusa came in, and basically something like that, where where Medusa would turn people into stone. I live in Illinois, in a town called Willow Springs. It's a very nice town. Um, there's hardly any crimes committed out here, which is great. Um, Now, hold on here. Oh, here we go. Now, even though I might say some of these Greek deities wrong because I'm not familiar with how to pronounce them, I don't know how to do all that. I don't know how to ban people from streams. Basically, I think the only reasoning why now, okay, we got a troll in the stream. Um, we got a troll in the stream, so we got to just keep an eye out for that. Um, now, Poseidon is famous for his contest with other deities for winning the patronage of the city. According to legend, Athena became the patron goddess of the city of Athens after a competition with Poseidon. Though he remained on the Acropolis in the form of his surrogate Erectus, after the fight, Poseidon sent a monstrous flood to the Attic plain to punish the Athenians for not choosing him. In similar competitions with other deities in different cities, he causes devastating floods when he loses. Now, Poseidon is horrifying and an avenging god. Zombie, hey, I know Greek gods do not suck, even though their history is amazing. Now, after the fight, okay, so after this fight, Poseidon is horrifying and avenging god, and he must be honored even when he is not the patron deity of the city. Some scholars suggested that Poseidon was probably a Pelagasian god or a god of the minions. However, it is possible that Poseidon, like Zeus, was a common god of all Greeks from the beginning. Now, the earlier attested form of now the earlier attested occurrence of the name written in Linear B is Poseido or Poseidon, which corresponds to Poseidon in Messenian Greek or in Homeric Greek. Yeah, a lot of the trolls on here claim that nobody watches my stream, but here's the thing: when a troll comes in and they keep commenting on my videos, you're pushing what you trolls are failing to realize is every time you comment on my stream or any video that I put up, you're helping my algorithm out by pushing the video out for more views. Just remember that. In Arcadic, it appear like a lot of this stuff is basically just there's different like forms and different means for it. So you got Homeric Greek. It appears as Poseidon, spelled Posidaon. In Aeolic, it's spelled Poteidaon. And Doric as Poseidon instead of it being with an S, it's with a T. And Archaic as Poseidon, but spelled Posoidan. And the inscriptions with laconic style from Taenarian, Helos, and Theria as Poseidon, which spelled Pohoidan, indicating that the Dorians took the name from the older population. Now, the form Poseidon appears in Corinth. Now, nobody knows how Poseidon's name came to be. Now, the origins of the name Poseidon is unclear, and the possible etymologies are contradictory among the scholars. One theory breaks it down into an element meaning husband or lord, from the word pi, P-I-E, and another element meaning earth. Now, Doric for YN, producing something like lord or spouse of Da, i.e., of the earth. Now, this would link him with Demeter, um, who's the earth mother. Burkitt finds that the second element um, Now, Burkitt finds that the second element remains hopelessly ambiguous, and he finds a husband of earth reading quite impossible to prove. But according to Beeks, an etymological dictionary, um, and he finds a husband. So basically, Beeks, an etymological dictionary of Greek, there is no indication that means earth, although the root da appears in the linear B inscription, meaning earth shaker. Um, Now, another theory interprets the second element as related to the presumed Doric word water. Proto-Indo-European da, water, or means to run or flow. Sanskrit meaning Danu, meaning fluid, drop, dew, and names of rivers such as Danube or Don, and this would make Poseidon the master of waters. Um, Now, Plato in his dialogue Cratylus gives two traditional etymologies. Either, I think I just got a message about something that just came through. Here I gotta. You're gonna have to hold on a second here. There is a way. Here I'll take my phone downstairs. But this is my house. My room is not like a big mess. They did have a pipe burst. We had to move everything out of the closet when a pipe burst in my room. But let me go see here. Oh crap. I'll be back upstairs in a little bit after I get my stuff in. Oh crap. Let me go see if there's anything out here. What? That door, yeah. Yeah, because that door doesn't. Yeah. I'll get the others. Okay. Thank you. Right here. Right here. I'm just trying to make sure. that is all my groceries in the house. Okay, there we go. Hold on a second here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, today was my grocery shopping day because I didn't have a lot of food left. But this is my freezer and fridge that I put my stuff in. And you can see how there was not a lot of food for me in my freezer. So I got A&W root beer, Pepsi, which are my two favorite drinks, and then it's on the floor right here, orange juice. So we'll put this back. There we go. And this is what I got before I get back upstairs. Whatever I don't fit in the freezer will go in the fridge too, and that's also still keeps it cold. Jimmy Dean's breakfast bowl, which is bacon. That's bacon. I love bacon. Then we got the mac and cheese mega bowl. Cheesy scrambled with hash browns, also a good one. Then we got steak and eggs. This one is Guy Fieri's mac and cheese bowl. Okay, that's one bag. Then you got Marie Callender's, which is beef teriyaki. Sausage breakfast bowl. Another good one, cheesy chicken and rice bowl. Another bacon bowl, which is great value. And we get these. Now this is my favorite bag of chips. I usually get these when I just want something to snack on, which is the original Lay's. I love the original Lay's ones. Then there's some more over here. Also, when I, when I come home and I just want like another snack, queso rolls will be another one. Okay, let me close that up. Yeah, okay, right there. Then I got another one of these. Another bowl, sausage and gravy. Then you got ham and cheese. Then you got country fried chicken and gravy. That's this one. Then you got meatloaf and gravy. And steak and roasted potatoes. All pretty good choices. Those right there. Whatever I can't fit in here, we can go down here. There we go. Then we got some more of these. Two sauces of ranch dip for the chips, and then barbecue sauce for the chicken nuggets I have in the freezer, which I haven't eaten yet because I wanted to make sure I got barbecue sauce. So here we go. Other bowls are the spicy queso chicken bowl. I love spicy. Like I said, then you got beef and broccoli. Then you got honey glazed turkey and lemon herb chicken. I might have to go to the other freezer just because I don't have the room over here. That will go down there with my stuff. Okay, here. Then I got two of these orange juices because I like pulp. So there's that. And then some more of this stuff. You got backyard barbecue mule. And you got beef pot roast, loaded potato. That's the breakfast bowl. Chicken Alfredo bake, and buffalo style mac and cheese, and that is all for the groceries before I get back upstairs to finish up the Greek mythology video. So hold on here. So we got two large fridges over here because whatever we can't fit in one, we'll put in here. Yeah, I gotta look and see what I can do. Okay. I like to keep these cold, so I'll put these in here. Usually this would go with my stuff, but obviously there is no room. Here, I'll put this back here. I'll keep one out with everything. This way. Come on. There we go. That's all the groceries. When it comes time, I can put my stuff in the fridge when I feel like it. Doesn't mean I have to. There we go. Yeah, I was watching The Fear of the Walking Dead earlier, but I put that on hold. I just started season 3 episode. Was it 4 or 5? Let me see. Oh, episode 5. I started season 3, episode 5. Okay, that's. Okay, hold on here. Okay. Okay, let's get back to Poseidon. Okay, sorry about that. Now Beeks suggests that the word for Poseidon was probably a pre-Greek origin. The origin was probably Messenian Greek. The vocalic aspiration suggests a pre-Greek Pelagosian origin rather than an Indo-European one. Now, in Linear B, if surviving Linear B clay tablets can be trusted, the names Poseidowani or Poseideo, meaning Poseidon, occur with greater frequency than does Diuja, meaning Zeus, a feminine variant. Poseidia is also found indicating a lost consort goddess, in effect, the precursor of Amphitrite. Now, Poseidon was the chief god at Pylos. The title Wanaka appears in the inscriptions. Poseidon was identified with Wanax from the Homeric era to classical Greece, Anax. The title didn't mean only one king, but also it meant a protector. Wanak had a lot of aspects, and he was closely associated with Poseidon, who had the title Lord of the Underworld. Now you have different pictures of Poseidon here. You got Poseidon sitting on a chair. And then up here is what he's supposed to look like. That's a statue that was carved, and it's actually in Milos. They had different spellings for Milos. Milos, Melos, or Milos, depending on how you want to pronounce it or spell it. Okay, let's go back to here. Okay, so now Wanax was closely associated with Poseidon, and he had the title Lord of the Underworld. Now, the nature of Poseidon is also indicated by his title, Earthshaker, in Messenian, Knossos, and Pylos. Now, Homer, the epithet was also used in classical Greece. Now, Potnia was lady or mistress, and was the chief goddess at Pylos, and she was closely associated with Poseidon. She was a Messenian goddess of nature and Poseidon. Wanax is one from the gods who may be considered her male counterpart, like basically like lover, basically. I don't know how you would consider it. Now the Earthshaker received offerings in the cave of the goddess of childbirth, Aletheia, at Amnisos in Crete. Poseidon is allied with Potnia and the divine child. Wanasa means queen or lady, and it appears in the inscriptions usually in a plural form. Now, the dual number is common in Indo-European grammar, usually for chthonic deities like the Uranus, and the duality was raised for Demeter and Persephone in classical Greece, the double-named goddesses. Now, Potnia and Wanasa refer to identical deities or two aspects of the same. Irinu is attested in the inscriptions. In some ancient cults, Irinu means Erinus. In some ancient cults, Erinus is related to Poseidon, and her name is similar to that of Demeter. It's possible that Demeter appears as Damate in Linear B inscription. However, their interpretation is still under dispute. Um, now now C2 Potinija is probably related with Demeter as a goddess of grain. Um, Tablets from Pylos record sacrificial gods destined for the two ladies and the Lord, or to the two queens and the king. Wanasoi and Wanakita Wanakati. Wanasoi may be related with Demeter and Persephone, or the precursors, goddesses who were not associated with Poseidon in later terms, or periods, basically. Now, during the Messenian period, the ancestral male gods of Menecians were probably not represented in human form, and the information given by the tablets found at Pylos and Knossos is insufficient. Um, Now, Poseidon is a chief deity at Pylos and Thebes, and he's identified with Anax, and he carried the title Master of the Underworld. Anax had probably a cult associated with the protection of the palace. Um, in Acro-Corinth, he was worshipped as Poseidon Anax during the Messenian Age period. In the city, there was a famous spring, Perine, which in myth is related to the winged horse Pegasus. In Attica, there was a cult of Anax heroes who was connected to Poseidon. A cult title of Poseidon was Earthshaker, and in Knossos, who was worshipped together with the goddess Aletheia, who was related to the annual birth of the divine child. Now, Potnia was the Messenian goddess of nature, and she was the consort of Poseidon at Pylos. She's mentioned together with Bucrania and decorated jugs, and he was associated with the animals and especially to the bull. In Athens, Poseidon was an inland god who created the salt sea, Erechtheus, the Sea of Erechtheus. And in Acropolis, his cult was superimposed of the cult of the local ancestral figure Erechtheus. In Athens and Essene, he was worshipped in the house of the king during the Messenian period. Now, the bull was the favorite animal for sacrifices, and it seems that horses were rarely used during the burial of the Messenian leaders. Now, this is actually a picture on a cup, on a jug, of Poseidon pursuing a woman. You can see that there. You can see his trident right there. This is estimated to be printed about 480 to 450 BC, and it's a Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan, New York. That's where you'll see that at. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of these pictures that they have of the Greek gods are pretty fascinating. In Arcadian myth, Poseidon is related to Demeter and Desponia, and he was worshipped with the surname Hippios in many Arcadian cities. At Thalpulsa and Bagalia, there were sister worshippers, which are very important for the study of primitive religions. In these cults, Demeter and Poseidon were divinities of the underworld. Now, near Thalpulsa, the river Ladon descended to the sanctuary of Demeter, meaning Demeter Eriness, which means Demeter Fury. During her wandering in search of her daughter, Demeter charged into a mirror to avoid Poseidon. Poseidon took the form of a stallion, and after their mating, she gave birth to a daughter whose name was not allowed to be told to the unatiated and a horse called Arion, very swift. Her daughter obviously had the shape of a mirror too at first. But at first, Demeter became very angry, and she was given the surname Erinus, meaning fury, by the Thalpulsians. The Erinus were deities of vengeance. And Erinus had a similar function with the goddess Dike, meaning justice. I don't think I know the goddess Dike. I guess I have to look that one up. Now, in the very old myth of Thalpuso, Demeter, Erinus, and Poseidon, they are divinities of the underworld in a pre-mythic period. Poseidon appears as a horse, but in Greek folklore, the horses had chthonic associations, and it was believed that they could create springs. In European folklore, the water creatures or water spirits appear with the shape of a horse or a bull. In Greece, the river god Aeschylus is represented like a bull or a man bull, but many people, when sacrificed to Demeter, should make a preliminary sacrifice to Aeschylus. Um, at Pagalia, Demeter had a sanctuary in a cavern, and she was given the name Melania, meaning black. The goddess was related to the black underworld. In a similar myth, Poseidon appears as a horse, and Demeter gives birth to a daughter whose name was not allowed to be told to the satiated at Lycosira. Her daughter was called Desponia. Demeter, angry with Poseidon, put on a black dressing and shut herself in the cavern. Um, when the fruits of the earth were perished, Zeus sent the Morai to Demeter, who listened to them and led aside her wrath. Um, in this cult, we have traces of a very old cult, and Demeter and Poseidon as deities of the underworld. In another Akkadian myth, when Rhea had given birth to Poseidon, she told Kronos that she had given birth to a horse and gave him a fowl to swallow instead of the child. Now, in the Homeric hymn Demeter, they put a dark mourning robe around her shoulders as a sign of her sorrow. Demeter's male form was worshipped into historical times. Um, now the now the exonon of Melena at Figalia shows how the local cult interpret her as a goddess of nature. A Medusa type with the horse's head with the snaky hair, holding a dove and a dolphin, probably representing her power over air and water. Boeotian myth. The myth of Poseidon appearing as a horse and mating with Demeter was not localized in Arcadia, but at Haliartos and Boeotia near Thebes, Poseidon appears as a stallion. He mates with Erinyes near the spring of Topilsa, and she gives birth to the fabulous horse Orion. At Topilsa, we have a very old cult of the chthonic deities Erinyes and Poseidon. The water god Poseidon appears as a horse, which seems to represent the water spirit, and Erinyes is probably the personification of a avenging earth spirit. From earlier times at Delphi, Poseidon was joined in a religious union with the earth goddess Ge. She is represented as a snake, which is a form of the earth spirit. In the Theogony, oh shit, bitch. Okay, fucker. Oh, in the Theogony of Hesiod, Poseidon once slept with the monstrous Medusa near the mountain Helicon. She conceived the winged horse Pegasus, who sprang out of her body when Perseus cut off her head. Pegasus had struck the ground with his hoof and created the famous spring Hippocrene near Helicon. Now, Praxidiki were female deities of judicial punishment, and they were worshipped in the region of Haliartos in the historical times. Now, their origin is probably the same with Erinyes. Their images depicted only the heads of the goddess, probably a representation of the earth goddess emerging from the ground. Praxidis is an epithet of Persephone in the Orphic hymn. Now Persephone is sometimes depicted with her head emerging from the ground, only because Hades abducted her and forced her to marry him. That's why you only see her head somewhat above the ground. Here's another picture of Poseidon. It's a colossal type. There we go. Like I said, I love those pictures. They're fascinating. So during the Messenian period, Poseidon was worshipped in several regions in Greece. He was worshipped mainly in Pylos and some other cities, as he was a god of the underworld, or also known of the underworld. And his cult was related to the protection of the palace. He carried the title Anax, meaning king or protector. His consort Patnia was a lady or mistress, and she was the Messenian goddess of nature. Her main aspects were birth and vegetation. Poseidon had the title um, Earthshaker, and in Crete she was associated with the goddess of childbirth, Aletheia. Now through Homer, the Messenian titles were also used in classical Greece, um, with similar meaning. He was identified with Anax, and he carried the epithets um, Anosagios and Anosaidios, meaning Earthshaker. Potnia was a title which accompanied female goddesses. The goddess of nature survived in the Eleusinian cult, where the following words were uttered: "Mighty Potnia bore a strong son." In the heavily sea-dependent Mycenaean culture, there is not sufficient enough evidence that Poseidon was connected with the sea, but it's unclear whether Poseidia was a sea goddess. The Greek invaders came from far inland and they were not familiarized with the sea. Um, in the primitive Boeotian era and Arcadian myth, Poseidon, the god of the underworld, appears as a horse and he is mating with the earth goddess. Um, the earth goddess is called Erinus or Demeter, and she gives birth to the fabulous horse Orion and the unnamed daughter Dysphonia, which is another name for Persephone. The horse represents the divine spirit Numen and is related to the liquid element in the underworld. In Greek folklore, the horse is associated with the underworld, and it was believed it had the ability to create springs. In the European folklore, the water spirit appears with the shape of a horse or a bull, but in Greece, the river god Aeschylus is represented as a bull or a man bull, and Burkitt suggests that the Hellenic cult of Poseidon as a horse god may be connected to the introduction of the horse and war chariot from Anatolia to Greece around 16 BC. Um, Now, in the Boeotian myth, Poseidon is the water god, and Erinus is the goddess of the underworld. She is probably the personification of a revenging earth spirit, and it seems that she had a similar function with the goddess Dike, meaning justice. At the spring Tupulsa, she gives birth to Orion. In the Arcadian myth, Poseidon, Hippios, meaning horse, is mating with the mare Demeter. At Valpulsa, Demeter, Erinus gives birth to Orion and to an unnamed daughter who was the shape of a mirror. But in some neighbor cults, the daughter was called Dysphonia, meaning mistress, which is another name for Persephone. Now, the theriomorphic form of God seems to be local in Arcadia in an old religion associated with the Exona. Um, Now here, um, there's another thing. This is in Denmark, Copenhagen. This is supposed to be some of the gods from left to right: Poseidon, Dionysus, and Zeus. And this was from about 540 BC. This is at a national museum in Denmark, Copenhagen. Now, according to some theories, Poseidon was a Pelasgian god or a god of the minions. Traditionally, the minions were considered Pelagasians, and they lived in Thessaly and Boeotia. In Thessaly, there was a close relation to the horses. Poseidon created the first horse, Scyphios, hitting a rock with his trident, and managed in the same way to drain the valley of Tempe. Um, the Thessalians were famous charioteers. Some of the oldest Greek myths appear in Boeotia, and ancient cults Poseidon was worshipped as a horse. The horse Orion. Um, um, Now the horse Orion was a sire of a Poseidon horse with Erinus, and the winged horse Pegasus was a sire of Poseidon that was felled by Medusa. And at Onchestos, he had an old famous festival. Which included horse racing. However, it is possible that Poseidon, like Zeus, was a common god of all Greeks from the beginning. Now it's possible that the Greeks did not bring with them other gods except Zeus, Eos, and the Dioscuri. Now, like I said, I'm not sure if I'm saying these names right, unless I look them up. Now excuse me. Now the Pelagosian god probably represented the fertilizing power of water, and then he was considered the god of the sea. As the sea encircles and holds the earth in its position, Poseidon is the god who holds the earth and who has the ability to shake the earth. The primeval water who encircled the earth, Oceanus, is the origin of all rivers and springs, and they are children of Oceanus and Tethys. Um, Now, Farnell suggested that Poseidon was originally the god of the Minyans who occupied Thessaly and Boeotia. Now, there is a similarity between the Boeotian and Arcadian myth, and especially between the myth which represents the god of the waters. Poseidon is a horse. Um, Now, the mythical horse Orion appears in both regions. The offspring of Poseidon, the winged horse Pegasus, creates famous springs near Helicon and at Troezen. Some springs of Poseidon have similar names in Boeotia and the Peloponzi. Um, it's possible that the name of Poseidon, Heliconisos, and Boeotia, whose fest included horse racing, derives from the mountain Helicon. Um, the Minions had trade contacts with the Messenian Pylos, and the Achaeans adopted the cult of Poseidon, Heliconios. Now the cult spread of the Peloponnese and then to Ionia when the Achaeans migrated to Asia Minor. Um, Now let's see if I say this name wrong again. This is another one. This is Hermes. In this photo here, it's Hermes, Dionysus, um, Ariadne. I don't know how you say that, and Poseidon. Amphitrite is depicted on the other side, detailed from the belly of an Attic red figure, and this is actually held at the Louvre in Paris. Like I said, pretty interesting. Um, Now Nilsson suggested that Poseidon was probably a common god of all Greeks from the beginning. The Greeks occupied Thessaly, Boeotia, and the Peloponnese during the Bronze Age. In all these regions, Poseidon was the god of the horses, and the origin of his cult was the Peloponnese, and he was the inland god of the Achaeans, the god of the horses and the earthquakes. When the Achaeans immigrated to Ionia, there was a transition to regarding Poseidon as the god of the sea because the Ionians were sea dependent, and they were dependent upon the sea to get their trades and their goods. Um, Now, with no doubt, he was originally the god of the water, but the Greeks believed that the cause of the earthquakes was the erosion of the rocks by the waters. Um, Now, by the rivers and the Peloponnese, which they saw to disappear into the earth and then to burst out again, the god of the waters became the earth shaker. This is what the natural philosophers, um, Aristotle and Thales Anaximenes, believed and could not be different from the folk belief. Now, the Greek legends Arethusa and the river Apollos, they traversed underground under the sea and reappeared at Orthagia. Um, but in any case, the early importance of Poseidon can still be glimpsed in Homer's Odyssey, where Poseidon, rather than Zeus, is the major mover of all events. In Homer, Poseidon is the master of the sea, but he is described as a majestic, scary, and avenging monarch of the sea. Um, and there is a song that's always that pertains to him. And here's another statue of Poseidon that is actually at a museum in Athens, Greece. You can see that there. That's a bronze statue. This was carved between 480 and 440 BC. The statue was possibly a bank offering to the god after the battle of Artemisin. Don't ask me what like I said, um, so this is a song, an occult song to Poseidon. I begin to sing about Poseidon, the great god, mover of the sea and fruitless sea, god of the deep, who is also lord of Helicon and wide Aegae. A twofold office um, the gods allotted you, O shaker of the earth, to be a tamer of horses and a savior of ships. Hail Poseidon, holder of the earth, dark-haired lord. O blessed one, be kindly in heart and help those who voyage in ships. Homeric hymn to Poseidon. Um, Now the worship of Poseidon was extended all over Greece and southern Italy, but he was especially honored in the Peloponnese, which is called the residence of Poseidon, and in the Ionic cities. The significance of his cult is indicated by the names of cities like Potidaea in the Chalkidiki Peninsula and the Paestum, a Greek colony in Italy. Um, Poseidon is a frequent Greek place name along coastlines in the name of Greek colony at the Syrian coast. Um, and his Ionia, in Ionia, his cult was introduced by Achaean colonists from Greece in the 11th century BC. Now, traditionally, the colonists came from Pylos, where Poseidon was the principal god of the city. The god had a famous temple near the mountain Mycale. The month Poseidon is the month of the winter storms. The name of the month was used in Ionic territories in Athens, in the inland, in the islands of the Aegean, and in the cities of Asia Minor. At Lesbos and Epidaurus, the month was called Poseidios. During this month, Poseidon was worshipped as the master of the sea in a bright cult. Um, Here's another one. This is Poseidon with a trident on a hippocampus or a seahorse. An Athenian block figure, white ground pottery. This is an Oxford. This is an Oxford. Maybe actually let's see that again. That is so cool. So yeah. Poseidon is also a major civic god of several cities. In Athens, he was the second one only to Athena in importance. Now, while in Corinth and many cities of Ionia and Magna Graecia, he was the chief god of the polis. Many festivals of Poseidon included athletic competitions and horse racing. In Corinth, his cult was related to the Isthmian Games. In Arcadia, his cult was related to the games Hippocratia, and at Sparta, he had a temple near a hippodrome. And in Alcestis of Boeotia, horse racing was a part of the athletic games in honor of Poseidon. Now, supposedly, Poseidon is considered a symbol of unity. And Pannonia, the festival of all Ionians near Mycale, were celebrated in honor of Poseidon, and was the one place of meeting of the Ionian League. He was the patron god of the crap the Amphiktyaini of Calori. At Anchestos of Boeotia, he was worshipped as Poseidon Heliconesios. His sanctuary became the place of the meeting of the Second Boeotian League. At Lake of Archaea, there was the famous temple of Poseidon Heliconesios, which was the place of meeting of the Archaean League. Now, the master of the sea creates clouds and storms, but he is also the protector of the sailors. Poseidon has the ability to calm the sea for good voyage and save those who are in danger. He is worshipped with the surname Savior as the protector of the seafarers and the fishermen, but he is also the earthshaker. However, he is also the protector against the earthquakes. In some cults, he is worshipped as the bringer of safety or protector of the horse and the foundations. Now, The god was considered the creator of the first horse, and he's believed that he taught men the art of taming horses. He was depicted on horseback or riding in a chariot drawn by 2 or 4 horses. He had a lot of temples in Arcadia with the surname Hippios of the horse, and he was also transformed into a horse to seduce Demeter. Um, Here's another picture of Poseidon holding with his trident holding a fish. You can see that this is also in the Museum of Denmark in Copenhagen. Um, when it comes to being the god of water, Poseidon is related to the primeval water, which encircles the earth, Oceanus. He is also the father of all rivers and springs, and he can create springs with the strike of his trident. He's worshipped as a ruler of the springs and leader of the nymphs. On Thessaly, it is believed that he drained the area, cutting the rocks of Tempe with his trident. In Greek folklore, the horse can also create springs. Um, also, with being god of the sea, Poseidon is also a god of fishing, and especially of-sea fishing. Tuna fish was offered to him by the fishermen during the festival meal for the protection of the nets. Tuna and later dolphin was his attribute. He was worshipped in many islands and cities by the coast. At Corcyra, a roaring bull near the seashore, quarantined a good fishing. The devastating storm of Poseidon is related to fishermen, and they poured drink offerings to Poseidon, who is the savior of the sea. The god of inland waters was very close to vegetation, and Poseidon was worshipped in many cities as a god of vegetation. In Haloa, in Athens, was a fest of vegetation. The Protragaia is a wine fest, and it seemed to belong to Dionysus and Poseidon. In several cities, Poseidon was worshipped in relation to the genealogy at Tynos. He was worshipped as a healer god, probably a forerunner of the famous Evangelistria. Also, I did not get to this, but I will say this. Now, if you're a god, let's say with Poseidon, if you were the offspring of Poseidon and you were near water, and if you ever got injured and you head to the water, if you were like the offspring of Poseidon, you were able to heal yourself with water. The bull is related to Poseidon mainly in Ionia. Now, the sacrifice of a bull offered to Poseidon is mentioned by Homer in an iconic festival. Now here's another one. This is Poseidon fighting polybites. You can see that here. Let's zoom in there. Poseidon fighting polybotus or polybites. I don't know how you say that. But this is actually in. Now this is actually being held in Paris. This is at a museum in Paris, France. So yeah, like I said, I like a lot of the old pictures and stuff like that when it comes to like this Greek mythology stuff. In a benign aspect, Poseidon. Actually, hold on. Let me go back up here. Yeah, the sacrifice of a bull is offered to Poseidon, and it's mentioned by Homer in the Ionic festival Panayoia. Whatever, however the fuck you say it. The sacrifices offered to Poseidon consisted of black and white bulls, which were killed or thrown into the sea. Boars and rams were also used, and in Argolis, horses were thrown into a well as a sacrifice to him. In a benign aspect, Poseidon was seen as creating new islands and offering calm seas. If you offended Poseidon or ignored him, he supposedly struck the ground with his trident and caused chaotic springs, earthquakes, drownings, and shipwrecks. Now, sailors would constantly pray to Poseidon for a safe voyage, sometimes drowning horses as a sacrifice. In this way, according to a fragmentary papyrus, Alexander the Great paused at the Syrian seashore before the climatic battle of Issus, and he resorted to prayers invoking Poseidon the sea god, for whom he ordered a 4-horse chariot to be cast into the waves. Now, according to the Poseidonians, Poseidon was one of the caretakers of the oracle at Delphi before the Olympian Apollo took it over. Um, Now, Apollo and Poseidon worked closely in many realms. In colonization, for example, the Delphic Apollo provided the authorization to go out and settle, while Poseidon watched over the colonists on their way, and he provided the lustral water for the foundation sacrifice. At one point, um, Delphi belonged to him in common with G, but Apollo gave him the Psycho-Pompeian Caluria as a compensation for it. Um, um, Now, Xenophon's Anabasis describes a group of Spartan soldiers in 400 to 390 between the year 400 and 399 BC, singing to Poseidon in a hymn, um, which was normally sung for Apollo. Like Dionysus, he inflamed the Menades, who Poseidon also caused a certain form of mental disturbance. A Hippocratic text, which was that he was basically a Hippocratic text circled around 400 BC, because nobody really knows what year it was written, but they estimated it to be around 400 BC. It was called the Sacred Disease, and basically they blamed Poseidon for certain types of epilepsy. Um, Now, Poseidon to this day is still worshipped in modern Hellenic religion, among other Greek gods. The worship of Greek gods has been recognized by the Greek government since 2017. Um, Now, Poseidon had many different roles, duties, and attributes. He is a separate deity from the oldest Greek god of the sea, Pontus. In Athens, his name is superimposed on the name of the non-Greek, on the non-Greek god Erectus. In the Iliad, he is the lord of the sea, and his golden palace is built in Aegae, in the depth of the ocean. His significance is indicated by his titles, a Euryclean, which means wide ruling, or an epithet also applied to Agamemnon, and Heliconesos, Anax, lord of Helicon, or Hellenic. In Helic of Archaea, he was especially honored. Anax is identified in the Messenian Greek Linear B as Wanaka, a title of Poseidon as the king of the underworld. Eschylus uses the epithet Anax, and Pindar the epithet means Eurymedon, meaning widely ruling. Now, some of these epithets are adjectives applied to him, like Enosygios, which means earth shaker. Now, these epithets include his nature and have an older evidence of use, as is identified in Linear B. Other epithets that relate to him with earthquake is Tinoaxic. The god who causes the earthquakes is also the protector against them. Also is Themoloshos, upholding the foundations. Asphaleos, secure and protector, with a temple at Taenarun. Pausanias describes a sanctuary of Poseidon near Sparta besides the shrine of Alcon, where he had the surname Domotitus, which means of the house. Now, Homer uses Poseidon. Actually, let's go up here. Here's another photo of Poseidon there. And then you have another one on a jar here. Poseidon surprises. This is actually at a museum called Agrigento. That's in Italy. That's a town I actually never heard of. But either way, anybody can come in and subscribe. Be aware there is one troll here. So be aware anybody can come in, subscribe, leave comment on the video as much as you would like. Now Homer uses Poseidon, um, uses for Poseidon the title Kaya Kaya no Chatis, meaning dark-haired, dark blue of the sea. Um, Epithets like Pelagios, meaning of the open sea, or Aegeus, meaning of the high sea. Now, in the town of Aegea in Uaboia, he had a magnificent temple on a hill. Pontomedon, which was lord of the sea, Pindar and Aeschylus, and Cymothalus, abounding with waves, indicate that Poseidon was regarded as holding sway over the sea. Um, Other epithets that relate him with the sea are Porphmios, um, which means of straight, narrow sea at Carpathus, um, ep, epi, 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 Epictetus, which means God worshipped on the coast, and Samos, Elidupus, meaning sea resounding. The master of the sea can also cause devastating storms, is also the protector of seafarers, and he was given the epithet Soter, meaning savior. Um, his symbol is the trident, and he has the epithet Eutrania, which means with goodly trident. The god of the sea is also the god of fishing, and tuna was his attribute. At Lampsacus, they offered fishes to Poseidon, and he had the epithet Phytelmios. His epithet Phykeos, which means god of seaweeds, at Mykonos, seems to be related with fishing, but he had a fest where women were not allowed, with special offers also to Poseidon, which is like related to an official domain. Um, at the same day, they made offers to Demeter, Chloe. Therefore, Poseidon was the promoter of vegetation. He had the epithet Phytomios at Mykonos, Troezen, Megara, and Rhodes, comparable with Patorpheus at Chalcis. Um, Poseidon had a close association with horses, but he is known, but he is better known under the epithet Hippios, which means of a horse or horses used in Arcadia. He had temples at Lycosura, Mantinia, uh, Methodrium, Phenios, and Palandion. Um, Now here's another thing: Poseidon battling a giant called Polybot. This is at a at the Louvre in Paris, France. You can see that there. Poseidon is fighting Polybot, who's a giant. Giants used to exist back then, but not anymore. Sometimes you wonder if giants can still exist in some way or another. Um, yes and no. It's more like people end up getting growth spurts and they end up being tall. Um, and like Osirius, he is related with the cult at Desponia, but the modern sanctuary near Mantinea was built upon by the Emperor Hadrian. In Athens, on the hill of horses, there was the altar of Poseidon Hippios and Athena Hippia. The temple of Poseidon was destroyed by Antigonus when he attacked Attica. Um, Now he's usually the tamer of horses and the leader of horses. Hippocorius at Sparta, where he had a sanctuary near where he had a sanctuary near Artemis and Anagenia. In some myth, he is the father of horses, either by spilling his seed upon a rock or by mating with the creature who then gave birth to the first horse. Now in Thessaly, um, he had the title Patrios, meaning of the rocks. Basically Poseidon would hit a rock, and the first horse Scipios appeared. He was closely related with the springs, and with the strike of his trident, he could create springs. He had the epithet Chronocius, ruling over Athens, ruling over springs, and Nymphagadus, meaning leader of the nymphs. Um, and the Acropolis of Athens, he created the salt spring sea of Erectus. Many springs like Hippocrene and Agnape and Helicon were related with the word horse. Like hippos, also Glucape. He is the father of Pegasus, whose name is derived from the word spring. Um, Now epithets like Genesios at Lerma, that means the race or family. Um, Fratrios, meaning of brotherhood, and Patrogenios indicate his relation with the genealogy trees and the brotherhood. Um, Now other epithets of Poseidon and local cults are epoptes, meaning overseer, watcher at Megalopolis. Um, and Pylios means at the gate at Thebes. Cronios and Semnos meaning holy. Now some of Poseidon's bitch. Um, Now some of Poseidon's epithets are related to festivals and athletic games, including racing. At Corinth, the the Isthmian Games were an athletic and musical festival in honor of the god who had the epithet um, what they call Ismethios. Not for sure if I'm saying that right. Excuse me. At Sparta, there was a race. Um, Poseidon had a temple near the city beside a hippodrome. At Manati- at Mantinea and Paladinium and Arcadia, the Hippocratia were athletic games in honor of Poseidon. At Ephesus, there was a fest Tabria, and he had the epithet related with the bull. Here's a thing. This is in Manhattan, New York, but this is Poseidon and Nike. Poseidon and Nike victory, but this is at a museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan, New York. That is so cool. Okay, I love stuff like that. Um, there's a museum that pertains to art called the Museum of Art. Um, the art there's an art museum in Chicago, which I don't live too far from. Maybe one day when I start getting some money saved, I will probably go back over there and go check them out. It's been a long time since I've been. That's the one thing about where I live at. I got all the tourist destinations surrounding me. I got the art museum, Brookfield Zoo, Lincoln Park Zoo, um, the little red schoolhouse. Um, then there's Lake Catherine, which is a nature museum. Um, um, the little red schoolhouse is also a nature museum. Not that far from me. Um, then you got the woods, which I like to take a walk through when it actually is warm out. Once it starts getting warm out, then I'll start walking through the woods again, because that's something I like to do. The Corinth, the Pel- So many festivals all over Greece in the Ionic cities and in Italy were celebrated in honor of Poseidon. Now Corinth, the Pan Hellenistic games were celebrated in honor of Poseidon. His sanctuary is to be seen in the context of the position of Corinth controlling the sea. The festival included athletic and musical competitions and horse racing. Traditionally, the games were established in the Bronze Age over the dead prince Palemon. Um, Now in Athens, Poseidon had a festival in the month Poseidonium. He is worshipped as the master of the sea. Um, in Athens, Haloa was a fest of vegetation. Um, the wine fest Protrygea belonged to Dionysus and to Poseidon as a god of vegetation. And Macao and Ionia, Macao was a promontory between Samos and Miletus. The representatives of 12 cities celebrated the Panania of all the Ionians, a festival of Poseidon. Um, Traditionally, the first settlers landed in this place. but the temple became the meeting place of the Ionian League. Homer describes the sacrifice of a bull to Poseidon during this festival. Um, Ephesus and Ionia, the relation of Poseidon with the bull is stronger, and Ionia, the fest Turia was celebrated in honor of Poseidon, and the cat bearers were called bulls. Um, in Calaria, Poseidon was the patron god of Calaria. The festival was celebrated in honor of him. The famous temple was the meeting place of the representatives of the members, um, of, which means ampi, Amphihicatrinite. Not sure if I'm saying that right. At Tynerin, the famous festival, Tyneria, was celebrated in honor of Poseidon. The participants were called the Tynerari. The sacred sanctuary of the god was built in a cave in the Tynerian Peninsula. A Philal cult existed in Sparta. In Alcestis and Boeotia, Poseidon had a famous temple praised by Homer in the catalog of ships. With the surname Helicanesios, it became the place of meeting for the second Boeotian League. The peculiar fest included horse racing. At the beginning of the race, the charioteers jumped down and made a prayer to Poseidon to protect them if the chariot would fall in the sacred grove. In Sparta, Poseidon was worshipped with the surname carrying the earth or moving under the earth. There was a race. There was a race called Gaiachoi, and the temple was built beside a hippodrome. Sorry. Okay. Here's another thing. This is Poseidon seated on a chair, wearing a chiton and a hymnation, and he's holding his trident. And this is actually held at the Louvre in Paris. Now. Now, Halik in Achaea, the city is mentioned in Homer's catalog of ships. Excuse me. The temple and the festival of Poseidon Helicanesios was Pan-Hellenic. It's the place of meeting of the Achaean League, and the city was destroyed by a tsunami in 370 BC. Epidaurus, a fest in the month Poseidios, was celebrated in honor of Poseidon. He is worshipped as a master of the sea. And Helos, the fest Poadea, was celebrated in honor of Poseidon, and the festival included athletic games and competitions. In Theria, the festival Poadea was celebrated in honor of Poseidon, and that also included athletic games and competitions. In Arcadia, Poseidon was worshipped with the surname Hippios, meaning of the horse. The festival included athletic games in Hippocratia. The temple was holy, and the entrance into the cella was not allowed. Palandion and Arcadia, Poseidon had the epithet Hippios, meaning of the horse, and the festival included the athletic games Hippocratia. Thronium. The Thronium was the chief city of ancient Locris, and is mentioned by Homer in the catalogs of ships. The name of the month in the city was Hippios. Lesbos, a festival in the month Poseidos, was celebrated in honor of Poseidon. He is worshipped as a master of the sea. Mykonos, in the festival, he was worshipped as a god of fishing, and women were not allowed. Chloe Demeter received offerings in the same festival, including that Poseidon was also a god of vegetation. Tynos, a great fest called Poseidonia, was celebrated in honor of Poseidon. The temple included great banquet halls, indicating a large number of participants, and Poseidon was also worshipped as a healer god. This is actually held in the Sozopol Archaeological Museum. Poseidon is in the middle. Where is Sozopol? Um, okay, Greece. Okay, like I said, I'm not familiar with a lot of towns and this, and stuff like that. Okay, no, this is supposed to be Poseidon's temple in Greece. Um, this is what his temple is supposed to look like. Um, but who knows? Um, Now, the Corinthians are considered to be the inventors of the Doric order. However, Corinth was completely destroyed and rebuilt, and there is not sufficient enough evidence for the existence of earliest Doric Greek temples in the city. Um, a building constructed between the early seventh century BC, which means between 690 and 650 BC at Ismir near Corinth, which was later dedicated to Poseidon. He's considered it's considered a pioneering building, and it featured Doric architecture. Um, it seems that the first temple with pure Doric elements was built with the aid of Corinthians at Thermon in the middle of the 7th century BC, between 640 and 630 BC. Um, it's a narrow wooden structure dedicated to Apollo, but it measured 12 by 13 and 38 by 23 at the stylobate, and the number of Pachiran columns was 5 by 15. In the earlier temples, now I'm just wondering, because this was back years ago, they didn't have the type of technology that we have now. So I'm wondering how were they able to move this type of equipment without the proper technology that we have now? They didn't have that type of technology, so I've always wondered how they did it. Um, in earlier temples, the perimeteral colonnade is treated with a freedom unknown to later Doric architectures. Um, Now this is in part, especially in Western future in Italy, because the hexa style scheme was adopted. Um, um, as in the Temple of Poseidon at Taranto and the second Temple of Hera at Paestum, traditionally they named the Temple of Poseidon. In the earlier temples, when the number of columns in the porch is odd, so are the columns of the facade. In such temples, the side patera was approximately the width of one or two intercolumniations. Um, in the hexastyle scheme, like the Temple of Poseidon at Sunion, there are normally two or four columns in the porch, and the side patera are approximately the width of one intercolumniation. Um, in the Doric early work, the distance between column and column differs on the front and on the flanks. Um, Now, this can be observed in the Temple of Poseidon at Calaria and in Basilica at Paestum. After the 6th century, the rule in Doric is an approximately equity of intercolumniations, and it can be observed in the Temple of Poseidon at Sunion, where there is a slight difference. Um, Now, in Isthmia, the temple dedicated later to the god Poseidon was probably built between the 690 and 650 BC in the city Corinth, and it had a wooden peristyle. Now, the building was completely destroyed in 470 BC, and it seems that it was one of the pioneering buildings that featured Doric architecture. Um, The ground plan showed a temple that was of epic proportions for its time and of a layout that was almost entirely new. However, there was no evidence for the employment of the Doric style as it was suggested. Um, Now, Paestum, on the west coast of Italy near Naples, the Greek name of the city was Poseidonia. The Doric temple was built in the early 6th century BC, and it was believed that it was to be a temple of Poseidon. Now, traditionally, this name is associated with the 5th century BC temple at Paestum. However, recent excavations indicate that both temples were dedicated to Hera. The so-called basilica measured 24 and 5 by 54 at 3 meters at the stylobite, and the number of Pateran columns was 9 by 18. The temple was wider than most Greek temples, and it had 2 doors. This may indicate a dual dedication of the temple. A Doric temple, um, and the so-called Temple of Poseidon, was built in the first half of the 5th century BC, and it was usually placed later than at Parthenon. The temple measured 24 by 3, or 24 and 3 by 60 at the stylobite, but a Texas-style structure and the number of Pateran columns were 6 by 14. And the temple was also used to worship Zeus and another deity whose identity is unknown. Um, Taranto, a city of Magna Graecia in Italy, the temple of Poseidon was a perpetual Doric temple. However, its exact plan cannot be outlined. It was probably built in the 6th century BC, and it seems that the number of Paterian columns were 6 by 13. The interval of the remaining columns is 3.72 meters, indicating that the maximum dimensions of the temple of the stylobite could be 22 and 32 by 47. Sunian and Attica. The first temple of Poseidon, formerly called the Temple of Athena, was built in the year 490 BC, and it was destroyed by the Persians before completion. It measured 13 and 12 by 30 at the stylobite, and the number of Paterian columns were 6 by 13. This is a slight difference between the front and back intercolumniations and those of the flanks. Now there was probably a double row of inner columns, close wall, engaged the cella with porches and a ditra measured 9 by 21. Since I'm not very good with measurements, the second temple was built in 425 BC, and it was modeled on its predecessor. It measured 13 by 48 and 31 by 15 at the stylobite, and the number of Paterian columns was also 6 by 13. An Ionic frieze carried across Paterion and continued around the interior of each end of the Paterion. The cella, with porches and a ditra, measured 9 by 21. The temple probably contained, at one end facing the entrance, a colossal bronze statue of Poseidon. Now, Caloria, an island close to the coast of Troezen in the Peloponnese part of the modern island Porus, that's in Greece. Early roof tiles from 650 BC suggest the existence of a precursor to the late archaic Temple of Poseidon. The Doric temple was probably built in the middle of the 6th century BC, and it constructed mainly of coral stone. It measured at 14 and 50 by 27 at the stylobite, and the number of the Paterian columns were 6 by 12. And was both front and back intercolumniations were wider than those on the flanks. The building was surrounded by a low wall, the main entrance of the east side. Hermione and Argolis. The most remarkable temple in the time of Poseidonians was the Temple of Poseidon. The temple was built in the late archaic, early classical period, during the late 6th century BC. It was completely destroyed. It was completely destroyed at its foundations at the peninsula of and they indicated that the temple was measured approximately at 15,000 by 30 at the stylobites, and this is where it would have been at if it still existed. This is what it would have looked like. So if you were ever in the town, this was in Greece, Hermione, Greece. If you were ever in that area, you would be able to find what possibly could be Poseidon's temple. If you were ever in that area, you would find the remains like the top. You would see the layout of where it would have been at. At Tainaran, The sacred sanctuary of Poseidon was built in a cave at the Tainaran Peninsula. The path to the interior that was carved into the rock was preparing him who wanted to get into the the whatever. So anyway, it also functioned as a necromancy and temple. The temple was also established as a place for persecuted who fled there for protection. Um, Tynos, an island of Cyclades, the temple of Poseidon, and Amphitrite were built near a beach of the island, basically in the 4th century BC, Hellenistic period. It's also a patriarchal Doric temple. It was reconstructed in the 3rd century BC. The temple was made of local marble and had some representations of the god symbols, such as dolphins and the trident. Um, if you want to know about standard versions, in the standard version, Poseidon was born to the Titan Kronos and Rio. Um, Here's Poseidon and Poseidon, also known as Neptune. Um, this is at a museum in Medina, Tunisia. Um, this is the museum it would be at. Um, this would be uh, Tunisia is in Africa. Surprised Africa would have that. Wow. Okay. But yeah. So basically, let's say the standard version, Poseidon was born to the Titans Kronos and Rio, and is the 5th child of the 6 born after Hestia, Demeter, Hera, and Hades in that order. But because Poseidon's father was afraid that one of his children would overthrow him like he had done to his own father, Kronos would swallow each and every infant as soon as they were born. Poseidon was the last one to suffer this fate before Rhea decided to deceive Kronos and whisk away the 6th child Zeus away to safety. Um, After offering Kronos a rock wrapped in a blanket to eat, once Zeus was grown, he gave his father a powerful emetic that made him gorge up the children that he had eaten. The 5 children emerged from their father's stomach in reverse order, making Poseidon both the second youngest child and the second oldest at the same time. Um, and basically armed with the trident forged for him by the Cyclops, Poseidon with his siblings and other divine allies defeated the Titans and became rulers in their place. Um, um, Now, according to Homer and Apollodorus, Zeus, Poseidon, and the third brother Hades then divided up the world between them by drawing lots. Zeus inherited the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades would receive hell, also known as the underworld. In a rare and later version, Poseidon avoided being devoured by his father as his mother Rhea saved him in the same manner as she did Zeus by offering Kronos a fowl instead, claiming she had given birth to a horse instead of a god, while she had actually laid the child on a flock. Rhea entrusted her infant to a spring nymph. When Kronos demanded the child, the nymph Arne denied having him, and her spring thereafter was called Arne, which bears resemblance to the Greek word for deny. Um, Here's another picture of Poseidon. Um, Andrea Doria as Neptune by Angelo Bronzino. This was painted between 1540 and 1530, and it's held at a place in Milan. Um, in another tale, Rio gave Poseidon to the Telchinese, ancient inhabitants of the island of Rhodes. Rhodes is in um, Rhodes is a town in Greece. Um, Kefira, or an Oceanid nymph, became the young god's nurse. As Poseidon grew up, he fell in love with Heliea, the beautiful sister of the Telchinese, and fathered 6 sons and 1 daughter, Rhodos on her. By that time, Aphrodite, the goddess of love, had been born and risen from the sea. and attempted to make a stop at Rhodes on her way to Cyprus. Poseidon and Helios' sons denied her hospitality, so Aphrodite cursed them to fall in love and rape Helia. After they had done so, Poseidon made them sink below the sea. In Homer's Odyssey, Poseidon has a home in Aegae. Um, now, now this is supposed to be Poseidon and Athena. This is this is at the B&F Museum in Paris, France. This is called block figure base painting by an Emmaus painter, because they don't know who actually identified it. So Athena became the patron goddess of the city of Athens after a competition with Poseidon. Poseidon still maintained a huge presence on the Acropolis in the form of a surrogate Erechtheus. At the dissolution festival at the end of the year, the Athenian calendar, the Skira, the priest of Athena, and the priest of Poseidon would process under Eleusis. They agreed that each would give the Athenians one gift, and the Athenians would choose whichever gift they preferred. Poseidon struck the ground with his trident, and a spring sprang up. The water was salty, but not very useful, and whereas Athena offered them an olive tree. Now the Athenians, or their king, Cecrops, accepted the olive tree, and along with it Athena as their patron, for the olive tree brought wood, oil, and food. After the fight, infuriated at his loss, Poseidon sent a monstrous flood to the Attic plain to punish the Athenians for not choosing him. The depression, made by Poseidon's trident and filled with salt water, was surrounded by the northern hull of the Erechtheum, remaining open to the air. Now here's another one, Athena and Poseidon. We go right here. This is actually at the Paris and Louvre, France. This is at the Louvre in Paris, France. Yep. Now Burkett noted in Colt, Poseidon was identified with Erechtheus, and the myth turns into a temporal casual sequence. In his anger for losing, Poseidon led his son Eumolpus against Athens and killed Erechtheus. It's also said that Poseidon, in his anger over his defeat, sent one of his sons, Helios, to cut down Athena's tree gift, but as his son swung his axe, he missed and aimed and killed himself, killing himself instantly. Now Poseidon, in a fury, accused Ares of murder, and the matter was eventually settled on the hill of Ares in favor of Ares, which was thereafter named after the event. In other versions, Helios raped Alcippe, Ares' daughter, so Ares killed him. Poseidon was enraged over the murder of his son, and Ares was thus held in hold, which eventually acquitted him. The contest of Athena and Poseidon was the subject of the release of the western pediment of the Parthenon, the first site that greeted the Arabian visitor. The myth is constructed by Robert Graves and others as reflecting a clash between the inhabitants during Messenian times and newer immigrants. Athens at its height was a significant sea power, and at one point defeating the Persian fleet at Salamis Island in sea battle. The Corinthians had a similar story to the foundations of Athens about their own city, Corinth. According to the myth, Helios and Poseidon clashed, both desiring to make the city their own. Now, the dispute was brought to one of the to some of the people. Briareos, an elder god who was thus tacked. Well, they were tacked on to settle the fight between the two gods. So Briareos decided to award the Aqua Corinth to Helios, while to Poseidon he gave the Isthmus of Corinth. Now, in this tale, Helios and Poseidon are supposed to represent fire versus water. Helios is the sun god, and he received the air and he received the area that is closest to the sky, while Poseidon, who was the sea god, got the isthmus by the sea. Um, um, Now here's another thing right here. This is Poseidon in Ammonium, Presby, Italy. Now at another time, Poseidon came to an agreement with another sea god, with another god, sorry, Leto, and that he would give her the island of Delos in exchange for the island of Caloria. He also exchanged Delphi for Taenarum with Apollo. A temple of Poseidon stood at Caloria during ancient time. Poseidon also came to disputes with his sister Hera over the city of Argos. A local king was chosen to settle the matter, um, for Aeneas, and he decided to award the city to Hera, who then became its patroness. Poseidon was enraged and sent a drought of plague to plague the city. One day, as an Argive woman named Ammonian went out to search, came upon a satyr who tried to rape her. Um, Ammonian prayed to Poseidon for help, and he scared the satyr away with his trident. After Poseidon rescued Ammonian from the lecherous satyr, he fathered a child on her own, on her Nepolis. Yeah, there's still a lot more to read on this, and I don't know if I'm going to get to all of it. But I'll show you some of the photos. Oh, that's another one I want to get to, the Minotaur. This is a thing of Poseidon and Theseus on the jar. This is actually in Malibu, this is at the Paul Getty Museum in Malibu, California. Then you got this right here. This is at the Mosaic Museum in Turkey. Then you got this. This is actually at this is in the Roman Republic in the Field of Mars. That's an altar, like a. This is at the metropolitan city in Naples, Italy. Now this is supposed to this is spears from Chimera from underneath while Pegasus strikes the monster with his two hooves. This is actually at the J. Paul Getty Museum in Malibu, California. This is Poseidon, Neptune, and Encenas. This is supposed to be the offspring of This is supposed to give a breakdown of like I said, this is a lot of shit, so I'm not going to read all of it. This is Neptune and Amphitrite. This was painted around 1500. They made a movie called Jason and the Argonauts, and Poseidon appears in the movie. I'm not sure who plays Poseidon. Poseidon has appeared in modern literature, most notably in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian book series, in which he plays a role as the title character's father, Percy Jackson, because Percy Jackson's real name was Perseus. So he's mentioned throughout the books and in the movies. In film and television, Poseidon has been very popular, especially in god-related films. Poseidon appeared in the 1963 film Jason and the Argonauts. I'm not sure who plays him. Poseidon appears in Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, and Percy Jackson, The Sea of Monsters, the two film adaptation of the book series, even though there's like 14 or 15 books. In the first movie, The Lightning Thief, he is played by Kevin McKidd. I'm not sure who plays him in The Sea of Monsters. But that should be the end of today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I was not planning on doing a live stream today, but maybe sometime by next week I'll get another one out. But like I said, but starting in March, my live streams are going to be limited because I will be starting college. Um, so I'm going to be going. So right after I get off of work Monday through Thursday, I'll be heading straight to college to be taking my classes. So the only off days I would have would be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, I'll still work Monday. I mean Sunday, Friday. Sorry, Friday. I'll still work Friday at my one job, but then I still have Saturdays and Sundays off, which I'll probably use to study for my classes, and then probably do a live stream here and there too. But I'm going to be taking the time to be studying mostly for my classes to try to pass them. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Um, Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, Rusty the King, and make sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe for the channel. Leave a comment, let me know what you guys are thinking after the video is posted. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube, and for just as little as a few bucks a month or video, your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for watching.